There is a paradox that you will feel in the marrow of your being if you dare to truly help someone. The paradox is this: those you save, those you pull from the abyss of their own darkness, will not always remember your hand with gratitude. Often they will turn against you, as if the very light that once rescued them now feels like an unbearable reminder of their own shadows. I have observed this truth countless times in my study of the psyche, in my clinical practice, and in the labyrinth of myths that mirror the human soul. And I warn you, this truth will test your spirit, for the ego craves acknowledgement, while the self, this eternal center of our being, demands only the truth, even if that truth wounds. Why is this so? Why do the very souls you nurture, those who once clung to your words like lifelines, eventually twist those same words into accusations? The answer is buried deep in the architecture of the unconscious. When you save another, you are not simply offering them a rope to climb out of their suffering. No, you are also holding up a mirror to their deepest wound, the unhealed archetype that governs their suffering. And in that mirror, they see not only the possibility of freedom, but also the terror of their own responsibility. To be saved is to face the unbearable truth that they could not save themselves. And the ego, my friend, despises nothing more than its own impotence. This is why ancient myths always depict the savior figure not as a celebrated hero, but as a tragic one. Consider Prometheus, who brought fire to mankind. Was he thanked? No. He was chained to a rock, condemned by the very gods for daring to share light with those still wrapped in darkness. Or take Christ, who healed the sick and fed the hungry, yet he was crucified by the very world he came to save. These myths are not historical coincidences. They are living truths about the psyche. To save another is to awaken in them both awe and resentment. They will love you for revealing the light, but they will hate you for exposing their darkness. I tell you this because there is a poison in the modern spirit that whispers, save everyone, sacrifice yourself endlessly. But when you follow this poison without discernment, you enter into a dance of shadow and projection. You may begin to see yourself as the great rescuer, the indispensable hero in another story. Yet this too is a trap, for if you save without awareness, without the humility to recognize that every soul must ultimately rescue itself, you will awaken not only their gratitude, but also their hidden rage. When their wounds are not instantly healed, when the light you offer burns too brightly, they will not blame their own unpreparedness. They will blame you. I recall a patient who once came to me, shattered by the betrayal of someone she had saved. She had taken this person from the depths of addiction, given them shelter, food, love, even a sense of purpose. Yet, the moment this person began to heal, they turned on her, spitting venom, accusing her of control, of manipulation, of being the cause of their pain. She could not understand it. But I told her, you did not save the person. You saved their mask. The true self was still asleep, still afraid of the pain beneath the surface. And when that mask cracked, the raw shadow projected itself onto her. This is the nature of the unconscious. It does not thank the one who reveals its hidden face. It fights. We must understand projection, for it is the cornerstone of this entire drama. When you pull someone out of their own chaos, you are often dragging out their shadow along with them. This shadow, unrecognized and untamed, must find an enemy, and it is all too easy for them to place you in that role. You become the embodiment of the authority they resent, the parent who failed them, the God who allows suffering. It is an ancient psychological mechanism. The savior becomes the persecutor because the unconscious cannot yet bear the weight of freedom. There is also a subtle form of envy that takes root when you stand in your own light. When you radiate the strength that another lacks, you remind them of everything they have lost, everything they fear. They will never become. Your existence becomes a wound to their pride. Do not think this is malice. It is simply the painful process of individuation. The soul must confront its inadequacies, its weakness, and not all are willing to undertake this journey. For many, it is easier to attack the one who shows them the path than to walk it themselves. I've often said that no tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. And this is the burden of both healer and helper, to accept that in saving others, you are not only bringing them closer to the heavens, but also awakening their inner demons. This is not failure. It is simply the nature of transformation. The caterpillar does not thank the cocoon for the pain of its metamorphosis. It only bursts forth, forgetting what held it together during its darkest hours. And yet, I do not tell you this to discourage you from helping. I tell you this so that your help is rooted in the wisdom of the self, not the hunger of the ego. The ego saves to be praised. The self saves because it must, but the self also knows when to step back, when to let the other walk through the fire alone. For if you carry them through every flame, they will curse you for making them dependent. And dependency always breeds resentment. Think of the archetype of the wounded healer, embodied in figures like Chiron. The healer is not a savior in the conventional sense. He does not force healing upon anyone. He offers his presence, his knowledge, and his scars as a guide, but he does not demand gratitude. He knows that true healing comes when the other embraces their own suffering as the key to transformation. If you save someone before they are ready to save themselves, you steal from them the very fire that would have forged their soul. There is a dream. I once heard from a man who was struggling with betrayal. In the dream, he was carrying a stranger across a raging river. Halfway across, the stranger transformed into a wolf and bit him, dragging him under. This dream is a perfect metaphor for what happens when we attempt to carry another's burden entirely. The wolf is the shadow, the wild instinct that resents being tamed. When we take responsibility for another's path, we become the object of their shadow's fury. The only way to avoid this fate is to walk alongside them, not to drag them. You may feel now a certain unease, perhaps even guilt, as if I am asking you to turn your back on compassion. No, I am asking you to deepen your compassion until it becomes wisdom. True compassion is not the act of drowning with someone just to prove your loyalty. True compassion is the courage to stand on solid ground and extend your hand, knowing that they must decide to grasp it, and if they let go, if they choose to sink back into the darkness, you must let them, otherwise you will drown in their unconscious while they blame you for the water. The people you save will one day blame you, not because you have wronged them, but because salvation is not a gift that the ego can accept without a fight. To be saved is to be stripped of illusions. It is to be confronted with the mirror of one's own weakness and the terror of freedom. Some will eventually thank you, but many will first hate you. And if you do not understand this, their hatred will wound you more than their gratitude could ever heal. To walk this path of awareness is to accept that gratitude is fleeting and misunderstanding is almost inevitable. When you act from the deep source of the self, you are not seeking thanks, nor are you trying to bind others to you through the weight of their indebtedness. Rather, you are a witness to their suffering, a mirror to their unconscious, and a reminder of the divine spark that still burns within them. Yet, know this, the unconscious often attacks the very thing that threatens its sleep. To awaken someone is not always to comfort them. It is often to shatter their dream. And the dreamer rarely forgives the one who pulls them out of illusion before they are ready. In the human psyche, there is an archetype I call the rescuer or savior. And like all archetypes, it carries both light and shadow. In its light form, this archetype embodies the noble instinct to heal, to guide, to lift others from despair. But in its shadow form, it is driven by the need to be needed. It does not heal out of love or wisdom, but out of fear of being useless, fear of its own wounds, fear of looking inwards. Many who dedicate themselves to saving others secretly hope to save themselves. This is not a condemnation. It is simply the truth of our psychic structure. We are drawn to what we lack, and what we heal in others often mirrors the unhealed within ourselves. You must ask yourself, why do I save? Do I rescue because I cannot bear the sight of suffering? Or do I rescue because I am afraid of seeing my own suffering reflected in the other's eyes? If you are not aware of your motives, your saving will become a form of control. You will unconsciously bind the other person to you with invisible chains of obligation. And when they finally break free of these chains, they will resent you, not for what you did, but for what they felt they owed you. They will project onto you the shadow of their own weakness, and you will stand there, bewildered, wondering why your kindness has been repaid with anger. I once spoke with a young man who had spent years trying to save his father from self-destruction. He gave his father money, time, endless forgiveness. Yet his father, instead of feeling grateful, grew bitter and distant. The young man could not understand. He said to me, "Why does he hate me when I have done nothing but help?" I told him, "You have saved his body, but his soul still believes it is drowning. Your light reminds him of his darkness, and he is not ready to face it. He does not hate you, he hates the reflection he sees in you." This dynamic plays out not just in families, but in friendships, in communities, and even between nations. Those who bring aid are often accused of arrogance. Those who heal are often despised for their power. The psyche resists anything that threatens its fragile identity. When someone saves you, they are, in a sense, rewriting your story. And the ego clings to its narrative of suffering, because suffering is often the only thing it knows as real. Consider the symbolism of the hero in mythology. The hero ventures into the underworld not only to bring back the treasure, but also to confront the shadow that resides there. When the hero returns to the world of men, he is rarely greeted with unbroken applause. Often, he is met with suspicion or rejection. Why? Because the hero's journey threatens the collective dream. He has seen what others fear to see, and his presence demands that they awaken too. The people you save may see you not as a hero, but as a reminder of what they have not yet dared to face. It is here that we must speak of individuation, the process by which the psyche becomes whole. To individuate is to face the shadow, to confront the archetypes that govern our unconscious, and to bring them into the light of awareness. This is a painful, often lonely path. And when you step into the role of savior, you are, in a way, accelerating someone else's individuation process. You are forcing them to see themselves not as victims, but as participants in their own suffering. This can be unbearable. It is far easier for them to blame you, to project their unhealed pain onto you, than to face the truth in dreams. This dynamic often appears as a figure who offers help only to be attacked by the one they save. I recall a dream told to me by a woman who felt betrayed by her closest friend. In the dream, she was pulling her friend out of a burning house, but as soon as they reached safety, the friend struck her across the face and ran away. This dream was a perfect illustration of the unconscious process. The burning house was the old, destructive pattern. She had helped her friend escape it. But instead of gratitude, the friend's psyche needed to lash out. For being saved meant acknowledging the destruction they had once lived in. When you save someone, you are not just dealing with their conscious self, the polite mask they wear in daily life. You are confronting the raw unconscious, filled with archetypes, complexes, and ancient instincts. The unconscious is not rational. It is not civilized. It reacts with fear, with aggression, with primal defense mechanisms. It may see your help as an attack on its sovereignty, and in many ways, you are interfering with the natural process by which they might have saved themselves. Even if your intentions are pure, the unconscious feels the intrusion and pushes back. There is also an element of sacrifice in this truth. To help another soul is to risk being misunderstood, even hated. You must ask yourself, if you are willing to bear this, can you offer your hand without expecting thanks? Can you endure the projection of their shadow without retaliating? Can you love without needing to be loved in return? This is the challenge of true service. And few can carry it without being wounded. This is why I call the healer wounded. For the act of healing others always opens our own wounds. But those wounds are not a sign of failure. They are the gateway to deeper understanding. I tell you these things not to harden your heart, but to soften it in the right way. True softness is not the naivety of believing that everyone you help will adore you. True softness is the resilience to help, even when you know you might be blamed. It is the strength to see beyond the projection, to know that the anger is not truly directed at you, but at the part of themselves they are afraid to face. This is the wisdom of the self. The self does not cling to recognition, nor is it wounded by rejection. It acts because it must, because it is aligned with the eternal pattern of life itself. Let me share with you a deeper vision of this. Imagine that you are walking through a dark forest. You see someone drowning in a river of their own despair. You reach in and pull them out. For a moment, they cling to you with gratitude. But as soon as they feel safe, they see your hand and remember that they could not stand on their own. Your hand becomes a reminder of their weakness. And so, to reclaim their pride, they push you away, even accuse you of drowning them in the first place. This is not malice. It is the psyche's desperate attempt to protect its fragile sense of self. The river is still there, and they fear falling back in. It is easier to hate the rescuer than to face the water again. This is why the greatest teachers and healers do not impose themselves. They offer guidance, but leave the choice to the individual. They know that forced salvation is not salvation at all. The soul must willingly step into its own fire, willingly confront its own darkness for transformation to be real. If you save someone who is not ready, you are not liberating them, you are delaying their awakening. And when they finally awaken, they may turn to you with anger, blaming you for the delay, even though you acted with love. So, what should you do with this knowledge? You must become both gentle and fierce. Gentle in that you do not impose your light on those who are not ready. Fierce in that you do not allow their blame to wound your own soul. You must learn to stand in your own center, your own self, untouched by their projections. This does not mean you become cold or indifferent. It means you love without chains. It means you serve without expectation. There is a profound loneliness that often accompanies those who truly live in the awareness of the self. When you begin to see the deeper currents of the human psyche, you also begin to see the illusions that govern most relationships. People want rescuers, but they also want to remain victims. They want the light, but not if it exposes too much of their own shadow. And so, when you stand as one who offers both truth and healing, you become a mirror that some cannot bear to look into. They may feel your presence as a challenge rather than a comfort, as if your very being demands that they step out of the stories they tell themselves. And for many, this is too much to endure. We must understand that projection is the unconscious mind's way of defending itself against truths it cannot accept. When someone blames you after you have saved them, it is often because you have awakened in them a dormant archetype, perhaps the abandoned child, the rejected lover, or the humiliated warrior. These archetypes, once stirred, can overwhelm the ego. Instead of seeing you as a helper, they may now see you as the parent who failed them, the friend who abandoned them, the world that has been unjust. Their pain is real, but their aim is misplaced. You become a screen onto which they project their inner war. This is why I tell you, do not internalize their blame. If you have acted from the integrity of yourself, their anger does not belong to you. It is the voice of their unconscious crying out against the transformation it both longs for and fears. When the unconscious begins to surface, it does not arrive gently. It comes like a storm, shattering illusions, tearing apart the fragile masks that have been worn for years, perhaps decades, and you, as the one who offered light, may become the lightning rod for that storm. I recall a time in my own life when I was accused of destroying what I had only meant to heal. In my early years of analytical practice, I believed that by revealing to my patients the nature of their unconscious patterns, I was giving them freedom, but not all were ready for such freedom. Some would leave my office enraged, feeling as if I had stripped them of their defenses, as if I had wounded them instead of helping. It took me many years to understand that truth is not always welcomed as a friend. The psyche clings to its illusions because they are familiar, and familiarity, even when painful, is safer than the unknown. You see, the people you save may not yet be ready to live without their suffering. This is a difficult truth to accept. We want to believe that everyone longs to be free, to be whole, but many cling to their wounds because their wounds have become their identity. To take away the wound is to take away the self. They know, and so when you offer them healing, they may lash out as if you are robbing them of something sacred. This is the paradox of the human soul. It both desires and resists transformation. Think of the alchemical process, which I have often used as a metaphor for inner growth. The first stage, the nigredo, is the blackening, the breaking down of all false structures. This stage is painful and chaotic, and those who enter it often feel as if their world is collapsing. If you pull someone too quickly from their nigredo, before they have fully confronted their darkness, they will not thank you. They will feel as though you have interrupted a sacred process. And in truth, each soul must undergo its own descent, its own confrontation with the shadow, if it is to emerge truly transformed. There is a story I once heard of a man who found a cocoon on a tree branch. He saw the butterfly struggling inside, and out of compassion, he cut the cocoon open to help it escape. But when the butterfly emerged, its wings were weak and shriveled. It could not fly. What the man did not understand was that the struggle to break free from the cocoon was necessary to strengthen the butterfly's wings. In his desire to help, he had crippled the very being he wanted to save. This story is a perfect metaphor for what happens when we attempt to save others without understanding the necessity of their struggle. We must not rob others of their own journey. To save someone is not to carry them on your back, but to walk beside them, to hold the lantern so they can see their path more clearly. You cannot walk the path for them, nor can you shield them from every pain. Pain is the crucible in which the soul is forged. If you remove all pain, you also remove the possibility of growth. And when they realize this, when they look back and see that your saving deprived them of their own strength, they may blame you, even if you acted from the deepest love. This is why I speak of detachment, not in the cold, indifferent sense, but in the sacred sense. To be detached is to love without clinging, to help without demanding an outcome, to offer without expecting gratitude. Detachment does not mean you do not care. It means you care deeply enough to let the other person grow on their own terms, even if it means watching them fall. There is a divine humility in this. You are not the architect of another's destiny. You are only a witness, a companion, a mirror in the collective unconscious. There is the archetype of the betrayer, the Judas figure. This archetype often emerges in the dynamic of savior and saved. It is as if the psyche, in order to complete its transformation, must turn against the very one who helped it. This is not always personal. It is symbolic. The savior must be betrayed so that the one who was saved can step fully into their own life. If they remain loyal, if they continue to see you as their savior, they will never truly become free. And so, at some point, they may reject you, blame you, even demonize you, not because they hate you, but because they must separate from you to become whole. Do you see the pattern? This is why Christ was betrayed by Judas, why heroes in myths are often abandoned by those they saved. The psyche cannot forever remain dependent on its rescuer. It must destroy the image of the rescuer in order to stand alone. And if you, as the rescuer, do not understand this, you will feel crushed, confused, even resentful. But if you understand it, you will see it for what it is, the natural progression of the archetypal dance. You may ask, then what is the role of the healer? If not to save, the role of the healer is not to save, but to awaken. It is to guide others toward the threshold of their own self, and then to step back, allowing them to cross it alone. You are not here to remove their suffering, but to help them see that their suffering contains the key to their transformation. You are not here to give them your light, but to help them discover their own. If you do this, they may still blame you, but their blame will eventually turn into understanding, for you have not stolen their power. You have revealed it. It is a painful thing to be blamed for what was meant as love. But this pain, too, is part of your own individuation. It teaches you that your worth does not depend on the approval of others. It reminds you that the work of the soul is not always visible or celebrated. It is often misunderstood, rejected, even mocked. But do not let this deter you. The deepest work is rarely recognized in its time. It lives on in the quiet transformation of those who, perhaps years later, will realize what you gave them. Do not let the fear of being blamed turn you bitter. Bitterness is the poison of the ego. The voice that says, why did I bother helping? If this is the thanks I get, do not listen to that voice. It is the voice of the wounded rescuer, the shadow side of the healer. Instead, trust in the deeper process. Trust that every act of true service plants a seed, even if the soil is rocky and ungrateful. One day, perhaps when you are gone, that seed may bloom. There is a certain grace that comes only when you let go of the need to be understood, when you stand in the truth of your own self. You no longer need validation from those you help, nor do you crumble when they misunderstand you. You become like a tree, rooted deep in the earth, unmoved by the passing storms. The storms will come blame, resentment, even hatred, but they will not shake you, for, they are not truly about you. They are the voice of the unconscious, struggling to free itself from its chains. You must also remember that you, too, have been on the other side of this dynamic. Think of the times in your life when someone tried to help you and you resisted. Perhaps you accused them of interfering, of controlling, of not understanding you. Perhaps you rejected the very hand that reached to pull you from the depths because you were not ready to leave. We have all been both the saved and the Savior. We have all, at one point, blamed those who loved us most. It is a cycle as old as the human story. Recognizing this will soften your heart, for you will see that their blame is not unique. It is part of what it means to be human. When I studied myths and dreams, I began to see this dynamic everywhere. In the dream world, the helper often appears as a guide, an old man, a wise woman, a mysterious animal that leads the dreamer through darkness, but rarely does the dreamer simply follow with gratitude. More often, they resist. They fear what the guide is showing them. They accuse the guide of leading them astray, when in truth, the guide is leading them deeper into their own soul. The same happens in waking life. When you save someone, you often become the embodiment of their inner guide. And just as in dreams, they will sometimes resist the very help they begged for. There is a psychological principle here that we must acknowledge. People are rarely angry at what is truly outside them. Their anger is almost always a reflection of what is inside. When they blame you for saving them, they are projecting the inner conflict they cannot yet face. They may feel ashamed that they needed saving at all. They may feel humiliated by their own weakness, and instead of facing these feelings, they turn them outward onto you. This is not rational, but the psyche is not a rational mechanism. It is a living, breathing mystery, guided as much by symbols and emotions as by reason. I once had a dream that has stayed with me for years. In the dream, I was walking through a vast desert. I came upon a man dying of thirst. I gave him water, and he drank deeply. But as soon as he finished, he looked at me with hatred and shouted, "Why did you let me suffer so long before you gave me this?" I woke from that dream with a deep understanding, no matter what we give. The unconscious can twist it into blame, because suffering distorts perception. It is not that the man in my dream was ungrateful. He simply could not reconcile the fact that he needed me. His ego wanted to believe he was self-sufficient. My gift of water reminded him that he was not, and so he lashed out. In our relationships, the same thing happens. We may pour ourselves into saving someone only to have them resent us for it. But we must see beyond this surface reaction. Beneath their anger lies a deeper truth. They are afraid of their own dependency. They are afraid of the mirror you hold up, the mirror that shows them both their fragility and their potential. And sometimes it is easier for them to break the mirror than to face the reflection. So what then is the way forward? How do we continue to help without becoming entangled in the web of blame and resentment? The answer lies in boundaries and humility. Boundaries are not walls to keep others out. They are the sacred lines that protect the integrity of both giver and receiver. When you help someone, do not do so with the expectation of gratitude. Help because it is aligned with your inner truth. And when they turn against you, do not chase after their approval. Stand firm, knowing that you have acted in accordance with what is right. Humility is equally important. Do not see yourself as a savior. See yourself as a fellow traveler. You are not above the person you help, nor are you responsible for their entire journey. You are simply there for a moment, a guide holding a lantern on the path. If they refuse the light, that is their choice. If they take the light and then curse you for giving it, that too is their journey. The self does not need to control the outcome. It simply offers and then steps back. It is also vital to turn this awareness inward. Ask yourself, who have I blamed in my own life? Whose light have I once rejected because I was not ready to see? Perhaps there is someone you still resent, not because they harmed you, but because they showed you a truth you were not ready to face. When you recognize this within yourself, you will have greater compassion for those who blame you. You will see that it is not personal, it is archetypal. It is the dance of Savior and saved, a dance that has been playing out in every myth, every story, every heart. Since the dawn of time, there is a hidden gift in being blamed. It forces you to confront your own shadow. Perhaps you helped, not out of pure love, but out of a need to feel superior. Perhaps their blame exposes your own ego, your own wounded healer archetype. If you can face this, you will emerge stronger, freer, and less entangled. Every projection you receive is an invitation to see yourself more clearly. This is the great work of the soul, to use every experience, even the painful ones, as a mirror for your own growth. When you are blamed for saving someone, do not retaliate with anger. Anger only deepens the wound on both sides. Instead, hold space for their reaction. Even if you must do so from afar, let them have their anger. Let them project their shadow onto you, knowing that one day, perhaps, they will see the truth. And even if they never do, you will have remained true to yourself. That is enough. In the end, the path of the healer, the guide, the one who dares to save, is not a path of glory. It is a path of quiet strength, of enduring misunderstandings, of standing firm in the face of projection. But it is also a path of great beauty, for in walking it, you touch the deepest currents of the human soul. You see people not as they appear, but as they truly are, flawed, fragile, but filled with divine potential. And even when they blame you, even when they turn against you, you can still love them, because you see that their blame is only the shadow cast by their own unawakened light. This is the final truth I offer you. To save another is not to control them, nor to demand their gratitude, but to ignite something in them that may one day bloom into freedom. You may never see the fruit of your labor. You may be misunderstood, rejected, et unwillig, but the work you do is not for recognition. It is for the soul itself. And the soul, though it may fight and blame, knows in some deep and hidden place, that you were there when it needed you most. So do not be afraid of being blamed. Do not let it close your heart. Walk with open eyes and open hands. Offer what you can, but do not tie your worth to the response you receive. Remember that even the greatest lights in history were often cursed in their time. Their truth was too bright for those still living in shadow. You, too, will face this, but if you remain anchored in yourself, you will not falter. The blame will pass like clouds over the sun, and what remains will be the quiet, knowing that you lived and acted from the deepest part of who you are.